I always love having conversations with fellow traders, and today I had the pleasure of sitting down with Rivalry. He is a full time trader and he is a coach at Chart Champions, and we got to sit down, we got to talk about trading, we got to talk about Bitcoin, where we think things are going in the future, and we even got to sit down and talk about spirituality and our shared faith in Jesus and our Christianity. It was a great conversation. I think you guys are really going to get a lot out of this. So make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. I hope you enjoy the content. Make sure to go subscribe to Chart Champions on their YouTube channel as well, because that's where you can find Rivalry. So enjoy the conversation, y'all. All right, Rivalry, man. I am honored to have you on the channel, bro. Honestly, did not expect this collab would ever happen, but thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. So I'm excited to have this conversation because you're becoming like a well-known trader in the space, known for being an expert scalper. You are very legit. You show your P&L, you show all your trades. On Twitter, I see you posting things, and it's like, wow, this guy he really knows what he's talking about. So, I've got a lot of people who are new to trading. They're just coming into the space, trading crypto, trading traditional markets as well. And I'm just curious because I watched your interview, I guess that was posted on the Chart Champions YouTube channel, and it seems like you
Mhm.
haven't even been trading for very long, and yet you're extremely successful. So, how in the world did you go from not really trading to now being a full-time trader?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking the question. So, most of my trades, honestly, if I had to collaborate the years, you could say it's 10. Like that's how I usually portrayed myself as, because it sounds better. But in reality, there was actually a person who kind of put me in check and said, you can't really say that if you didn't know what you were doing for the first like 5 years. So like, let's take any profession. Let's say any profession you say like if let's say like a mechanic or something like that. If you were an apprentice the entire time, you don't really add those years. It's when you were actually working as a professional. So in reality, I've been only full-time trading for 3 years, but trading and dabbling into trading for roughly about 10. But in those 7 years I was trading, it was really, I didn't even know what I was doing. It was very subjective. I would just look at the chart and be like, hey, this looks like a good entry to come in and get out, but not really any type of education. It was all purely subjective of price action, what I thought looked right at the time based on my own experience, not even anyone else's. So really only 3 years, really. That's what I would consider um, even remotely foundational.
That's crazy, man, because it gives people hope because a lot of people they come into trading and they don't go about things the right way, and it seems like an insurmountable task to become profitable full time. So, what would you say was your journey from not knowing what you're doing at all to now being at a place where not only is this what you do full time, but I mean, you're also now a Chart Champions coach, teaching other people also how to do this.
Yeah, so I think honestly, when I first got into the space, I used to, just a little bit like about myself just to get into the trading part. I was active duty for 10 years, right out of high school. And then I did a little bit of contract work for the military as a civilian. And then I went to the federal government. And it wasn't until the pandemic where we were considered essential. They sent us home, but quote unquote, essential really means I don't do anything at home. So this is when I was able to kind of deep dive into my trading journey, right? And in the beginning, I'll be fairly honest, like I said on the Chart Champions interview, I was only looking for signals. Like I was looking for signals groups. Hey, who's going to do the work for me? I just want to put money to work. That's really what I was aiming for. But it wasn't until I actually got into the deep diving of trading analysis, like what they call technical analysis, where I actually fell in love with it. And I had to find someone, because not just in the trading space in general, but in any profession, you want to look for a mentor, right? And that's something I really preach to our community, because having a mentor that is relatable, that can show you where your blind spots are, can really change the game for you in terms of being not profitable to profitable.
Yeah, man, that's pretty cool. So you primarily trade like you're not primarily a crypto trader, right? You trade the stock market, correct?
Well, I do. It's more, I like to consider myself a crypto investor nowadays, only because of legal clarity. I
Mm-hmm.
lost like, I want millions on FTX, and not from trading, unfortunately. Like it's
Mm,
different when you are taking a trade and let's say your stop loss gets hit, like let's say have a 5% stop that's fairly wide, and then you actually put in like 3%, 3x leverage, 15%. So you take a hit like that, it sucks. But it's different when you're just sitting on an exchange, and it's technically my fault because the space is riddled with the phrase "not your coins, not your crypto," right? But due to the amount of success I was getting trading, like ByBit had a leaderboard. I was on that leaderboard. And for a long time, I felt invincible. So it was kind of almost like borderline arrogance. Nothing can happen to me. I was making roughly about 1 to 2 BTC a day, day trading BTC, especially when it was around the 60 to 50K range. And OI, well, just what they call open interest on ByBit was over literally a billion. Like that's a lot, because I think right now it's only around 700 million, maybe 600. So day trading was very, very easy at the time. And since it was all house money, and I was in major profit, it's one of those kind of concepts where you didn't even think of it as actual real money because you never really touched it. So the arrogance was theirs, unfortunately, and it kind of just bit me in the booty.
that's crazy, man. I mean, I kind of had a similar experience to that. I didn't lose millions, but I lost hundreds of thousands, basically because someone drained my hot wallet,
Mm,
and same kind of deal. I was just like we both know it's dumb to keep money on an exchange, dumb to keep it on a hot wallet, but
yeah.
you just start stacking it there, and there's
You
a
don't really think
weird,
about it, right? Yeah.
yeah, it's like you don't stop and think like I could buy two houses with this. It
Hmm.
just it stops becoming I mean, you get what I'm saying, right?
Absolutely.
it's
Absolutely.
it's a strange phenomenon until it's gone in an instant, and then that totally changes everything. So
And that was one of the reasons why also I switched into the futures market, only because the legal clarity around futures is far more clear than crypto. Now, if I was, let's say, a resident of the EU or anywhere in the Middle East, like Dubai, well, absolutely, I'd still be trading BTC because, the moves are actually really good. The TA is respected very well. But there's a common misconception, those memes that are out all the time where crypto moves, let's say 10% in a single day, and it's like normal for us. And then in the stock market, that meme where people are going crazy. When in reality, like a 1 to 2% move in the stock market is actually really large because it's a fixed rate based on a tick move, and people don't really get that. And so you can make a lot of money, especially trading the Nasdaq. If you guys know, like altcoins got nothing on the Nasdaq in terms of volatility, but and it's fully regulated, which is nice. Don't confuse that with the CFDs, like those Forex traders though, because that's a scam. Futures markets where it's at.
yeah, I'm actually looking to transition into trading futures. I've been trading like indices on BingX with Tether as margin, but it's not based on tick. It's basically the same thing as like trading crypto.
Yeah,
Um,
dude, futures is the bomb, man. I say it all the time. Um, Literally with my community, I've converted a lot of people over because a lot, and I say it all the time, like, and the most important thing, right? It was one of our coaches, his name is Severin, a really amazing guy. He says he's not a futures trader, he's not a Bitcoin trader, he's trading the asset that gives him the most volatility and opportunity, right? And I love that view. But personally, for myself, I just love futures because of the stability of it, because how often we say, like, I think the all-time high for what crypto is like, what, 2.7 trillion, maybe 3, I don't remember, it's been a while. That's with a T, right? I mean, Nasdaq is running at 18 trillion. Like, it's
yeah,
not even
there's so
it's not
much
even
more money
close.
flowing through.
Yeah, I mean, if the stock market crashes, we have different problems, huge, a lot more different problems than if, let's say, crypto goes up below 1 trillion, I mean, once the
Right.
regulation comes in, I'm sure, but then by then, I think that BTC might even be paired with inside the S&P, which would be the ES futures, which would be nice. That's the long-term view, at least I hope what would to happen. But, you know, um, as long as you have the regulatory clarity of your country, I think trading crypto is fairly safe. But as far as investing, I don't mind doing that. I buy dips all the time. I bought several BTC at around 15, 16K. So
Nice. Yeah, I was irresponsibly buying Bitcoin around there as well. And I don't regret it. And I've been selling Bitcoin also, and I don't regret that
mhm,
either. People have
absolutely.
been, giving me uh stuff for it on the YouTube comments, but hey, I'm up 100% in a year. If you're not taking profit, there's something wrong with
Oh, absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely. Like it's where those AMC GameStop people at, like I had many friends and personally, because they knew I was a trader, I told them, hey, you need to start selling at this level because it's a historic level from I think it was like in the 80s where it was previous highs. And they're like, no, man, YouTube told me it's going to like $300. I'm like, all right. I could take a little bit of money, like pay yourself, but then you walk down the street, you find 50 bucks on the street, like you feel like you're a winner. So it's kind of crazy when people think about it like that, you know?
it is crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, there is a disconnect that happens when the money is just numbers on a screen and not, tangible like cash, because
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
there's a disassociation that happens there. It's a strange phenomenon for sure. So
Yes, absolutely.
so you're primarily a scalper, correct? You're not when it comes to trading in general, right? You're not really a swing trader, am I right?
I do still have my 66K short from BTC.
Oh wow.
So yeah, I've had that for a while and I do
Any plans to close, bro?
I've taken major profit on it. It's just I see no reason why because it's paying me funding fees. Now, as far as the last short I've taken, it was when if you pull a fib 1-to-1 on the yearly, it was the equilibrium of the year. It was at 31.2. That was the last short I've taken. And I've taken no short since. And that was literally hit to the tick. It was like 31.8 and then it rejected because there's something we called out on Chart Champions. They said, hey, it's got to close on the daily on that equilibrium of the year. I think it was 2022's equilibrium, which is the 50% of the 1-to-1 of that entire year's candle. Hit it to 31.8, rejected, but obviously never gained acceptance on that previous range around the 15 to 25K range. So that was the last kind of quote unquote short trade I took as a swing. I had multiple shorts from the highs at 52 and 47, but those have been closed around 20K. So I do take longer term hedge shorts, but I what I do is I transfer the amount that I need, and then once I hit TP1, I switch to 100x, and then I take the money out only because of what happened last time.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the way to go. I do
yeah,
something similar with that as well.
yeah. I just don't like holding my BTC. That's pretty much primarily what I hold now. Is just BTC. Everything else is in Tether or
Nice,
actual
man.
cash.
Yeah, I remember that short from 30,008 ish. I also took that, and that was interesting because that was when the fake ETF news came out that it had been approved or something, and we got like a giant
Mm-hmm.
wick up and then like a 10% wick down. And I remember when I saw that happen, I'm like, this is not bearish. I wanted it to be bearish. I wanted it to be a giant head and shoulders that brought us back down to like 16K. But yeah, it didn't look very bearish when we got that wick at all.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
here we are now. So I do want to ask you, since you are into Bitcoin as well, um, what does the future hold for Bitcoin in 2024? Are you looking for a bull market? Are you looking for something different? We just rejected from the macro golden pocket from bull market high to the low in November 2022. This is a pretty crucial area Do you think we're gonna get a major pullback that's gonna give us a lower low, or do you think we might see a just a minor pullback here and then shoot into another bull market?
So the way I trade any asset is I use historic volume profile levels. And for me, as long as we're still above what is it? Looks like, let me look at it. 30, around 37.
You can share a
Mid,
chart if you want, bro. That might be
oh yeah,
helpful.
so let me go ahead and let me pull it up onto the right screen and then I'll share the chart.
Awesome.
Hold on, let me just set it up 1 second. And let me make sure I share the right screen here. There we go. Can you see the screen?
Yep, looks great.
All right, perfect. So obviously, I look at historic volume profile levels. Okay. So for instance, as we were making the move to the upside, right? This rejection here around 35,000 was from the previous range above here, right? And as you were coming up into this level, so let's just delete this area, right? And you were making the move to the upside, everyone's like, oh my gosh, we're going to go to 40K. In order for us to even go above in that area, right? You need to gain acceptance back into this range right here around 37, right? So as price moved back into that range, the first time we touched it, we rejected. So let me just delete that area right there and just go back. You can see that you were grinding in that area this entire time. You see it right there? That's what you call the value area level. Okay. So this is on the daily. This is what you call consolidating under resistance. And in order for you, okay, for you to find some sort of rotation, you need to close on the daily above. And that's exactly what you did, is right there. So this right here is a close above, and market structure is completely bullish, making higher lows each time. This is what you call a vertical distribution, which is typically bullish on crypto. Okay. So the moment that hits that area, you're going to likely rotate to the next value area, which is what you did right here. So when a few of our members actually took this short, once you gained acceptance back inside this level, right? But the fact that you had single prints here, which that's going to be way too complex for some members, where that's in the market profile, which is time-based. These single prints were holding, which caused a further push to the upside. This area is just a liquidity grab of the recent highs right there. But I'm actually still looking for this full rotation of this small previous range here at 49, but 300. But where it gets super bearish for me, honestly, is that you make a lower high, not making this any higher, and then you're just starting to gain acceptance back into here. Where I would stop looking at this upper rotation is if you close below back into this range, at which you'll test this previous range here. This is it for me. This is the line in the sand. So this right here is still fairly bullish in this area. This is your maximum range right here. This is where I'm looking at BTC at the time, because this is just a major, I mean, just a minor liquidity grab. Okay. All it's doing is rotating back into balance. Because if you think of what volume profile represents, okay, because most people don't understand this volume profile. Like, hey, what is this? Because candles right now represent, okay, data, but they don't know exactly where the highest transacted volume is or where the median is, right? So the highest transacted area of this particular range right here would be the point of control, which is there. And based off the point of control, okay, it would be 70% of the major range, which is the value area high and value area low. Value area low. So this is what you call balance, okay? This is trading within balance, fair value. Because even if you don't understand charts, because I've actually talked this to a few of my business partners, it's basically just the basics of supply and demand, right? When the common example I always use in the community, and it looks like you're an American as well, you know, I'm sure you have a lot of American viewers as well. If you guys remember during the lockdowns, okay, toilet paper was going insane, right? It was just skyrocketing, like a roll of 24 at the time pre-pandemic was like 18 bucks, and it went all the way to like $32, $40. That's because the demand of it was increasing, right? We wanted to buy more. So price will continue to go higher until supply is too much. No different from real estate, right? So at one point, the market, quote unquote, will facilitate a fair area where a price remains in balance and it transacts at fair value. Right now, the last time price was transacting at fair value is from here to here. So if we cannot facilitate fair value here, it'll search for previous value and retest that area, which would be at around 28, 29, 28. And if it gains acceptance there, you're going to rotate likely down here. That's how it is. It's all rotations. No different from any chart. Like if you look at this on any chart, on any asset, it works the exact same way. And this is how it gives you invalidations on whether or not your trading is going to do well. It's not with the crazy patterns that some people use, although that's fine, you know, because at the end of the day, we all look at the same thing. So if everybody's looking at the same pattern and trading it the same way, it could facilitate that type of move. But in reality, I base my trades off data and actual hard evidence. And this is how I view the chart, at least at its basic concept. There's other ways to look at it, but I'm not going to get in too depth into teaching education on an interview, you know, but that's
Yeah.
basically it for me.
So basically,
So
what
as long
I
as
hear
we
you
hold
say is
this, I'm
you're
seeing
playing it
higher.
by ear. You don't necessarily have a prediction. You're just, you know, as long as we hold above 38, more upside is possible. If we lose that,
Absolutely.
you're looking down toward 30K.
I mean, there's a major area that I'm looking at, and I'll show you what it is. So I look at high time frame very um as an important level, right? So an area that I was looking at is a yearly close, right?
Yeah.
There's that yearly candle right here. So as long as if we close, in my opinion, a quarterly above this, a quarterly candle above that yearly, I would look for all-time high. Now, as far as the monthly is concerned, because there's a monthly view for it as well, there's a monthly just below here.
Mm.
Right here is at a 45. So if we're going to close, let's say like a week above that, then I'll just keep looking for higher. Like a
Right.
week above it, 1 week above, then I'll look for higher. So that yearly candle right there at 46 is going to be super important, because if you look at this yearly structure, right? This yearly candle structure, let me just remove the volume profiles here that are in that area. So if you look at it like this, in terms of, let's say this was like a 5-minute candle structure, 15-minute candle structure, 30-minute candle structure, this just looks like a liquidity grab of this previous high, and it's just going to test the lows. So the 3-month for me, right? The 3-month candle is going to be really important. Here's a 3-month, there's a quarterly candle. So it needs to close a quarterly candle above that yearly for me. Because if it does not, and it stays below the previous range, which is at 43.7, this is just within range. That's all that is to me. And it's going to test the lows because it's going to search for liquidity, you know? All the liquidity is grabbed from the upside, because this is where most of the selling pressure came in. Most people took profits here. Everyone that was here during laserized Elon Musk era just completely got trapped, because these people took profit, and everyone that
Right.
bought the highs are completely trapped, and they're bag holders for a while.
Yeah. You know, it does make sense to me to test the lows again.
Mhm.
Um, it is weird, like 15.5, we didn't really have any major support down there. I was expecting lower until we changed market structure on the weekly in January 2023. And I'm like, all right, well, here we go.
Yep.
But yeah, like it wouldn't surprise me at all if we see some kind of major retest of those lows. If a black swan event happens, you know, I'm not trying to predict the black swan, but you've got mainstream media right now talking about black swan. They're even using that word. And Jim
Yeah.
Cramer's bullish on the economy and Bitcoin. And man, can you imagine the fear if Bitcoin loses 30K, 20K, if we're back down at 15K, the capitulation that could happen, we could see 9, 10K again, which in my opinion would be an amazing opportunity. But obviously that's all we won't know until the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why I trade futures as well, because it's cash settled. So I usually take my profits and invest it in good assets, right? Nvidia was a good one, and also Bitcoin was a good one. So Tesla is a good one. So I put my profits to work on assets that I know are going to be longer term, whereas most people, they buy the assets and they just want the moon, which is fine because that is, the culture of crypto,
Right, right.
unfortunately, but, in order to set yourself up for the future, you need to buy it where it's, most effective. And right now is really not the place to do that. There should be a taking profit area, or at least holding a head short if you want. I know Daniel was able to catch a short here. I wasn't able to. I was traveling at the time, and it wasn't actually a level I was looking at anyway. So I'll be honest, if I was at my desk watching this area, I wouldn't have taken a short up over here because I was just expecting higher, unfortunately, and we're not going to always be right. But what is for sure is that you're just within range of the previous range where established, because this is a lot of data, guys. Like, I don't think people realize this is a lot of transacted data, and that's the median of the high and low of the median of all that data. And this is barely. You need a lot more
Yeah.
days to facilitate whether or not this is going to be your current range. All it's doing is trading off historic levels where price was being transacted prior. It's no different than basic economics of the world, right? When you're looking for a used car, you're going to base it off, price from other people. When you're looking for a house, what does a realtor do? He or she looks in that area. Hey, looks like houses are selling at these prices or buying at these prices around your neighborhood. This is no different.
Yeah, man, it's super interesting. I am short as well because of the golden pocket. I mean, and looking back at historic Bitcoin cycles, pretty much, yeah, all the past three Bitcoin cycles, we actually, let me share my screen real quick.
Sure.
Um, yeah, it's actually pretty interesting how the pattern kind of repeats. Let me see if I can get a share here. Yeah, so can you see my screen here?
I sure can. Absolutely.
Yeah, so like every single cycle, we we form like a base during the bull market, and then we lose it, and then we rally, and we hit into the first time we hit into the 0.5 fib, and then we drop right down to retest the base, and the white line's the halving, and then boom, it's off to the bull market,
Yep.
and same exact thing, like right here, base, rally into the golden pocket, retest the base, and then yeah, right here, base, rally into the golden pocket, retest the base, black swan, 2020 pandemic, and now here we are again. So it is a very interesting level to see what happens here, man. But yeah, I personally do think we're going to see even if we come all the way back down here, um, man, I'm expecting bullishness in 2024. So if it doesn't happen, I'm going to be pretty disappointed, man, because I'm right now planning for that bullishness. So we'll have to see what happens.
I think it's a fairly, gun to my head, let's say, I think it's a very decent investment. It does have a very big following, like, and it comes down to, obviously where retail will push price, like I cannot deny that. Although chart champions is even myself, I am very heavily based on technical analysis and what the charts are telling me. I will never ignore data releases. I will never ignore sentiment. I will never ignore the type of trends that are, showing in terms of how the buying power of a basic retail frenzy, because it's been proven, right? With the AMC GameStop stuff, it's definitely there. It's not something that you should ignore, but at the same time, as long as you're looking at hard evidence and data where value is being transacted, I see no reason as to why somebody could put a wrong investment at a certain location, as long as they're collaborating both types of, data in front of them, both the technical side and also the sentiment side. Because sentiment is going to play a huge role, because it's no different in the futures market. Many times people say, yeah, the charts will tell you everything. They do, yes, but tell that to the futures market when the FOMC is up and the DXY, which is the dollar, is very bullish, it's going to tank the entire futures market. It's completely inverse. All you need to be is a Forex trader, trade inverse DXY, and you're going to make money. It's that easy. It really is. So don't tell me that data doesn't matter, because it does. Sentiment doesn't matter. It does. It just has some sort of weight that you have to take with a grain of salt. And as long as you're looking at both correlations responsibly, that's the keyword,
Mm,
then I think you're going to do fine.
nice, man. Well, you know, we connected a little bit, and you know, I guess we're both followers of Jesus, and that's pretty cool, man. It's not a
And
lot of people in the crypto space are open about their faith. You know, personally for me, like I look at everything I have. I mean, my entire life is just I see the Lord's hand. Even before I was a Christian, I look
hmm,
back and see how the Lord has just guided every aspect of my life, and how he's taken me from literally having nothing physically and spiritually, and how he's blessed me beyond anything I could have ever imagined. And so, you know, if people you follow my channel, you guys know I'm always talking about that because it's such a huge part of my life. And so when I found out you were also a follower of Jesus, I'm like, wow, that's really cool. So
hmm.
how did that come about, bro? Were you always um a Christian, or is this something new? Like what's your story?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. And yes, I am an unashamed believer, and a lot of Chart Champions members know that. And I think the most important thing, even for myself and for anyone that's a believer, is that it's that misconception that we're like Bible thumping, like we're trying to throw the gospel down your throat. In reality, it's not like that for me at all. It's definitely it says it there: by your love and by your fruit, they will know my name and my face, right? So I've always tried to be as kind and as loving as I can, regardless of whatever walk they're in, what kind of faith they're in, because I know love conquers all, right? So it for me, my faith came about when I have to give a lot of credit to my grandma, because I came to America when I was 4 years old, from the Philippines, migrated here from the Philippines. And my mom worked full time, so I stayed with my grandma, and she was big into, God rest her soul, she was big into church, and it was kind of forced on me, like, but it wasn't, didn't have that negative effect like most people. They say, oh yeah, I grew up in church, I was forced and I hated every moment of it. Like for me, it was kind of cool. I would just go there. It was Sunday school. It was kind of strict. It was a very Baptist, pretty much very, very Baptist strict church, to where I had to go in a suit and tie. I mean, that's nothing wrong with that, but that's the
Or King James only
foundation.
Baptist?
Yeah. I'm sorry, say again.
King James only Baptist?
Oh yeah, King James only Baptist. You know it.
Nice, man.
So it was very, very strict, but it in where I noticed, okay, there was a change in my behavior, was only in hindsight. And what I mean by that is, as I'm older now, because a lot of the times where I look back into my childhood, sometimes, you talk with your cousins who are much younger, or even kids, or anyone, right, much younger than you, the type of lifestyle they're living, there's always that thirst for needing something. And I never really needed anything like that. I was always loved. I was always provided for, and I had a great upbringing, and I knew I had some sort, and what was the most important part is I had a sense of peace. And it was even more relevant in war. Okay. I had two uh deployments to Afghanistan. I was in special operations with the 160th. They call it the Night Stalkers. I was in search and rescue aviation. That's what I did for about 10 years. And when I came about, rescuing people, because in the mountains, you can't really casevac them out. Casevac means like you take a whatever truck or by foot. Everything there is mountains, so you have to fly out there. um it's kind of silly, like you never want to talk about injuries, but some of them always think they're dying, even though it's a very basic gunshot wound. And I tell this story a lot to a lot of people, where people ask me, excuse me, how do you know about your faith? How do you know? And I answer it very simply. Anytime I came across an injury, whether it was life-threatening or not, people would always ask, usually males. At the time when I was in Afghanistan, I was Afghanistan in Probably I don't want to say the year, let's say two, it'll give away my age, but one of them was in 2009, one of the deployments. And they always come back and say the same thing is the first thing they say is, am I gonna die? Right? It's always the first thing that people ask me, when I would, be working on them. It's like, am I gonna die? And if they're married, they say, please tell my wife I love them. If they're not, they say, please tell my mom. It's always their mom, right? And the last one is the one that always gets me is like, hey, what's going to happen to me when I die? Like, where am I going to go? I have so many regrets.
Hmm.
And it says it in Ecclesiastes all the time is like, eternity is in the heart of every man, regardless of what that is. That's why we search, take a good look around society today. Like everyone's in search of something. They're in thirst of something. It doesn't matter. We use that term thirst to be condescending, like about women or men, simps and things like, oh, they're thirsty. But in reality, we are thirsty. We're thirsty for searching for something, to complete us, to make us whole. And it says it clearly in the Bible, search me and you'll be whole. And I knew that at that moment, like the foundation that I had as a child kept me whole. I read my Bible while I was at boot camp and in deployment and with my unit. And my homies would make fun of me. He's like, oh man, there you go. Because they call me Doc, right? Not only is he a doc, he's also a pastor. Like and then I would
Nice.
pray right before I eat. Real quick one. I wasn't like a Bible thumper or anything like that. I wasn't like, hey, bad, shame on you. Never did anything like that, right? Because that would turn people away. That's completely the wrong message you send with the gospel, right? But there were times where there were missions that we didn't know we would come back from, and it would always be the guy that made fun of me the most, right? And he was like, God rest his soul, I love him to death. He was my brother, but he would always tell me, hey, could you say a prayer for us? And it would strike me. I was like, wow, like yeah, absolutely. Or when they're going through, like, let's say a divorce, or one of our friends were fallen that on a mission, and they would ask me, hey, could you say something? And these are like strong, some of them are either really strong atheists or different faith, or never really cared for it. I don't want to call them atheists, but they just kind of just live their life the
Right,
way
like
they wanted to.
apathetic.
Yeah, very, very apathetic. And they would always come back to some sort of spirituality, no matter what it is, right? And even with the new age type of learning these days, they'll say, oh, yeah, you need to do some sort of meditation. You need to do this. And that's like, to me, that, if that's helps you, that's amazing. You know what? You got to start somewhere, right? But for me, and where I've walked in my faith, okay, I've done a little bit of apologetics. Apologetics is actually studying of the faith and how to defend it, and I'm not here to talk about any bad about any religion, but there's only one person, and that's Jesus Christ, who says, I am God, right? Nobody has ever said that. So when somebody's making a statement, I'm a pretty arrogant guy myself. Like, hey, I'm the best trader in the world. When somebody says it like that, right? I am God. Nobody comes to the Father but through me. That to me lays down a line in the sand, right? And it says, well, there's something about this that tells me that I need to really listen in, and I've listened to the other ones. I've read all the different scriptures, of not completely, okay, just to be super transparent, not completely. So with respect to the other faiths out there, I've not read it completely, but the Bible I have multiple times. Okay, so it is very clear that he says that I am the way, the truth, and the life. Nobody comes to the Father except through me. I am God. I am man. I believe it was in Philippians or Colossians. I forget. I might be forgetting where he comes in form of a man, even though he was equal to God. He did not consider himself equal to himself. So that to me shows a lot of humility, where he could have just completely wiped us out, but he loves us so much that he would die for us. So that hits me, right? Very, very passionately, because that's how I feel about trading myself when I am coaching my students. Like, I want everyone to make it. It's a common misconception in the trading space that says, that we all going to make it is a bad term. Not for chart champions. We truly believe that everyone will make it, and to their capacity, obviously how much they put in, and we will continue to sacrifice our time and our energy and our education to make someone succeed, because we were put in that position to be anointed in that space, and that everybody has a calling, like it says in Colossians 3:23. Whatever you do, what you just do unto the Lord, like you're doing it unto the Lord, whether it's, the type of job that you have. Like, for instance, you're in your podcasting, you have your trading community, you even specify this, although you're doing it for the community, you're doing it as a representative that gives glory. And what we're talking about now gives glory. It doesn't matter, right? So I think it's an amazing concept.
Yeah, man, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I had no idea. Well, because I have very little exposure to you, because really the only time I've ever heard you speak was on that video that
Mm,
Chart Champions posted. So I had no idea you were a believer or anything, but yeah, so that's pretty cool, man. Well, that is pretty cool. Yeah,
thank you.
I've been a believer since 2012.
Okay.
And yeah, I grew up, and my family was religious, but I never really grasped onto that.
Hmm.
Um, Basically, when I was a kid, all I wanted to do was I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to be a guitar player, be in a band, and go on tour and live that life. And you know, I did actually accomplish that. So I didn't graduate high school because my band was actually, we ended up getting a record deal, and I
Okay.
was I was touring internationally, and it was great. And obviously, along with being in a band, being a young guy, 18 years old, 19 years old, the influences are negative. Uh, but what's funny at the time is it didn't feel negative at all to me. It felt great. I'll never forget this time I was doing a sound check in the West Coast, and it was a sold out show. And because we had a really good booking agent who would get us on, like headlining, opening up
Mhm.
for like big headliners and stuff. And I thought to myself, man, this is exactly what I wanted my life to be. And I can only explain it as a move of the Holy Spirit, because a lot
Yes.
of times you hear people, they like hit rock bottom or something traumatic happens, but that wasn't my case.
Hmm.
I just all of a sudden I got like a real thirst, like that word you say, for God.
Yes. Hmm.
And I would come home from tour, and I would lock myself in my parents' garage. That's where I lived in between tours. And yeah, I would just pray, and I would just read the Bible. And eventually the Lord, he just really spoke to me and said, this music, this band, this is your God. Like, you worship it, you serve
Mm.
it with your whole
That's
life.
good. Yeah, that's good. Good realization.
Yeah. And so you need to serve me with your whole life, not this. And I quit my band. I called the guys. I said, God told me to quit the band. And they thought I was nuts. And it was literally the most peaceful thing I've ever done in my life. Even though I was throwing away everything I had worked for the past 10 years or so.
Yes.
Just the peace was so amazing. And I'll never forget also this. I was driving to pick up my friend from college, and
Hmm.
I was praying on the way, because I didn't go to college. I didn't graduate high school. I had no skills in life. I had no friends, um, nothing. And I was praying about this, like, what am I going to do with my life now? Because everything I worked for is gone. And
Hmm.
I just felt the Lord say, like, just put me first, and you won't have to worry about anything else. And I'm not going to sit here and say I always put the Lord first, because that's something I struggle with. But I can say that he has kept that word to me,
Amen.
because I have never had to worry about anything. And if anything, I mean, he's blessed me so much. Um, it's been crazy, bro.
Yeah. What I've always found that's worked really well for me is that when I find myself in a situation where there's a lot of indecision, a lot of doubt, and a lot of uncertainty, and why it always goes back to what our faith surrounds ourselves in, and where they always say, oh, it's a relationship, it's not a religion. It's a common phrase that's used all the time. But you and I both know, like, being in a relationship, even let's say in a worldly one, whether it be a spouse or a child or even just a friend or business partner, it requires some sort of communication, right? It requires some sort of interaction. It requires some sort of bouncing ideas back and forth from each other, listening in, not just one-sided. Because on a one-sided, let's say in a marriage, if you're just one-sided and you're just always the one talking, never the one listening, it's not going to work, right? So it's the same concept in my faith, to where there are many times where I find myself in a place where I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And these are the times where the Holy Spirit always tells me, hey, your life is just too noisy. Why don't you just be still? That's one of the most important scriptures that I've read, is the phrase, be still. Because the world is so noisy, your life is so noisy, you don't hear him speaking to you. And on the flip side of that, all the decisions we make as individuals, like for instance, when I run other businesses as far as just trading alone. And when I go into a meeting, right, or let's say a meeting with my partners or anything like that, I always go with a sense of a quick prayer. It doesn't have to be all like all super holy, like Lord Jesus, blah, blah. I say, hey, God, I'm about to walk in here. If there's anything in here that you don't want me to, hear or talk about or support, let me know. Make it clear as day. And people tend to forget that, when we talk about God and, Jesus, him being a father, okay, in the worldly sense, we want our children to have the nice things. We want them to make their own choices. We don't want to dictate every single choice. There's a common misconception. He's like the big guy upstairs. We got to follow every single rule. No, sometimes he wants us to learn. So sometimes it's okay for us to make that choice. That is the free will of making that choice. So I say, hey, God, this is what I want. I'm going to make this choice. But if you don't want this for me, make it clear. Say no to it. And if I get it, it's like, oh, it looks like it was good to go. Because I included him in that decision. And I think that's the most important thing in a relationship, is, not just a relationship with Christ, but like relationships in general, including people. I know when I was in relationships, even relationships now, you'll hear that phrase, let's say your wife, girlfriend, whatever, they'll be like, well, I thought this is what you wanted. And then I was like, well, you didn't ask me. I was like, is this what you wanted? Yes. Then why aren't you agreeing to it? Well, I just wanted you to include me, like something
Yeah,
funny like that. And it makes
yeah.
sense. We laugh at it and we say, oh my goodness, seriously. But at the
Yeah.
same time, we understand the concept. And it's no different from him being omnipotent and omnipresent, which is all the time, everywhere, all the time, right? He already knows you're going to make the decision before you make it, but the fact that you're including him means that you're thinking of him. So that to me is enough. And I do that with I try to do that with every decision in my life, you know?
Nice, bro. Well, it's really cool to see that God has given you a platform to help people financially and spiritually, man. That's really
Mm,
cool,
yes. Amen.
Um, so that's really cool. Well, bro, I really appreciate you coming on the channel. Like I said, this is the most unexpected collab I think I've ever done. And
Yes.
yeah, man. So any last words you want to say to people? Um, obviously, where can they find you? How can they get involved with uh, your trading and all that, and Twitter and all that stuff?
Oh, absolutely. So you guys can find me at chartchampions.com. I am Coach Rivalry. My Twitter and my Instagram are actually the same. It's my first name, Paolo, Paolo, last name Flores, Flores, and it's 85. So it's both Twitter and Instagram, the both verified ones. There are a few fake ones out there, so please be careful. And I'm just going to state this now. I will never DM you or ask you for anything. Okay. So if they're doing that, that's not me. Okay. But one thing I'll leave with you guys is that if your goal is to be a full-time trader, which is what most people want to do, right? Especially, if they're in a trading channel such as yours, like for trading education, trading entertainment, most of people want to be full-time traders, make it millionaires, Lambos, and all that. It is a good goal, but if you want it to be a realistic goal, the number one thing you need to find is a mentor, right? A trading mentor or an investing mentor if you're an investor, and then a community. It looks like you have a great community already. So they have, the people that are listening in that are part of your community, check, right? Uh, a community is important because trading is very lonely. Like even for myself, I say to my community all the time that I don't need to be here. And I don't mean that arrogantly at all. It can come off as arrogant, but it's definitely not, because when you're taking nice trades, you want to share it with people because it's nice to win. And when you are, part of a community where everybody's winning, that is contagious. Winning is contagious. Joy is contagious. So when everyone is winning and you guys are part of a community where you guys are helping each other, you can't lose, So that's one of the last pieces of advice I can give to most people. And don't give up. It's really worth it. It really is. Thank you for having me, Jason. You're awesome, bro. Shout out to you.
Thanks, bro. Yeah, man. Appreciate you coming on Rivalry, and perhaps we will do it again sometime, man. So
Yes, I apologize for not my camera not working, but next time I definitely will see this face of mine.
awesome. Well, we
Take
see
care, guys.
your avatar, man. You look pretty jacked. So
Thank you. Take care.
all right, bro. Take care.